everybody, this is Francesco Abbruzzino with the Scoop News. I'm going to talk about controlled growth. And there's an individual out there, Dan Lobeck, which most people in the industry know. If you watch the different city council meetings and county, you'll know Dan. You'll know that he does a great job at pissing off the pro-developer attorney, Jeff Boone. That's one thing I really enjoy. For some reason, Dan really gets under Jeff's skin. Worse than I do, I think. And Dan is with Control Growth Now, which I'm going to pull up on the screen in a second. And he basically is out there trying to bring attention to growth issues, environmental issues, and many of the concerns that are out there that many individuals constantly come to me with. And I think it's imperative that more people find out about this source. And Dan's given me permission to share his articles like I think I did last week. But on this one, I decided I wanted to do a video because it grabs your attention more. It's more effective. But then I'm also going to put all the links up top. I'm going to put links to his group. There's actually a few community groups. Maybe I'll put 2 or 3 of them out there. I'm going to put a link to his website and then to this publication that he just dropped. So why don't we go ahead and go over there. And this is his article. It just came out. This is the February 27th one. And he talks about cities at a crossroads. Actually, there's several different things in there. The one I'm interested in is cities at a crossroad. And he talks about how developers are working through the city staffs now to try to get that growth that they're looking for. He talks about Susan Chapman, who I'm not always a fan of. I'm very critical of. I didn't like what she did with the lift station there in Sarasota and some other stuff. But then she's got some good attributes too. But he talks about how her, Shaw, and Friedland Eddy are the anti-growth candidates out there, and then Fred Fraze and Dan Anderson in Venice. Dan, for some reason, didn't touch on Northport. I'm not sure why. One thing with Deb Anderson, she is in trouble because you got Carlissimo, who's running again. He wants to run with her. He doesn't like her. A lot of people make her seem like she's a whack job because she's so she vigorously goes after that anti-growth component. And you can tell if you watch those council meetings, it's amazing. Bob sits next to her and he interrupts her, he attacks her, he does not like her. But those are the people that want advocates that want sensible growth out there. And he goes into how the planning staffs in Venice and in Sarasota and the transportation staff in Sarasota are pushing to scheme the cities with these comprehensive plans. And he basically says that, look, as citizens, you need to be outraged at all the growth that's happening. You do have a group out there that's citizens called Stop. It's a new group. They formed, I think, like 6 months ago, and they're out there trying to stop development by the staff. They've called for replacing administrative approvals for growth to go into public hearings and official votes. Something they're hoping to see. Control Growth Now, which is Dan's group, fought and helped defeat a rewrite of the city of Sarasota's comprehensive plan to benefit the developers. And they're also talking about, I put this article out the other day, how the city staff is pushing for that Fruitville road diet. Something I couldn't figure it out. Why do you want to narrow it down to 2 lanes? It didn't make no sense. And I think I actually did a video report on it. I can't remember. But basically, it's to benefit the developers north of Fruitville by connecting them closer to downtown. And the staff in Sarasota are claiming that the road is a diet, will improve traffic flow, making it they want to narrow this road down, I think, to 2 lanes and then put it in a roundabout. It was just crazy. And they're using projected traffic patterns where there'll be 0 increase in traffic, they're thinking. And Dan's saying, no, this is skewed, that they're overstating the traffic flow for like the roundabouts by reducing the national standard and different methods. They're just massaging and playing with the numbers. Because they know that the average citizen out there is dumbed down and not going to pay attention to this stuff. It's boring. After all, it's real boring. He talks about how they're up for re-election. This is one person that's running, Jen Ahern Koch, that's an advocate for limited growth, sustainable growth, and then obviously Sue Chapman, who he's also pushing out there. And then he does a little plug about going and supporting them. But then he talks about this, and this is Jeff Shrum, you see up on the screen there with the lovely Jeff Boone. Shrum is with the city. He's the development service director, and he's been the consensus is from many individuals that he's pushing a dangerous pro-growth rewrite of the comprehensive plan. And at first, when I looked at it, I thought, oh, they're limiting it. They're saying we're not going to build as many houses, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, this is a good thing. But then I read Dan's early article, which I think I posted last week, and some research, and I'm thinking, wait a second, what's going on here? He's basically saying that Schrump's using a fake news press and alleging that the revised plan would reduce the growth capacity from 58,502 dwellings to 32,200 and some other numbers. But he won't show how he's coming up with those calculations. He's unwilling to go through it. There's no, nothing out there is, what's the word I'm looking for? Forthcoming. He's not being apparent with everybody. The data he's providing, according to many individuals, and Dan in this newsletter, is unintelligible and does not support the conclusions that he's coming to. His comparison to the current and proposed plan does not match up. He says there's discrepancies in the acreage and the omissions of the plan. And there's many concerns that are out there. And there are 2 comp plan meetings coming up, which I've posted to cover this with the city. Hopefully there'll be questions. The last one Jeff Shrum had was a 3-day segment, and there were no questions basically afterwards, but it wasn't, it's fine. You can go up to an individual and ask them one-on-one questions. But sometimes in these forums, when you got 40, 100 people sitting there and you ask a question, it may be a question that the other 99 people weren't thinking of, but may interest them, and they may want to know the answer too. But the city doesn't want that. It's all about controlling the masses. And he's saying basically that these numbers are intended to obscure what's really going on here, which is the stripping and restriction of the development out of the comprehensive plan. He says that Shrum says that these provisions will add to the city's land development regulation. And he goes on and on. There's several problems out there. He noted that all of which this plan and the direction Shrum is going will benefit the developers, hurt the neighborhoods, hurt the environment, hurt mobility if it could be hurt anymore. Our mobility here is just horrible, and it's not protecting the public interest. He also goes into other stuff and he breaks it all down. He noticed that when this was noticed, the Venice Planning Commission, they decided a handful of limits on building height and parent site plan design and just several key neighborhood stuff, but dozens of controls would be repealed. The other problem is that later rules cannot be stronger than the much weakened policies that staff would put out in the revised plan. And he cites an example of some of this stuff, like he just goes on and on. There's so much stuff in here. State law gives stronger rights to residents and challenges. And basically he's saying, look, here's another one right here. Another scary part of the revised plan is a scheme for mixed-use districts, which give developers more right to change residential land use to commercial. So, and this could be right next door to your home, with only overall limits or over decades rather than limits of particular sites. And he's saying that the lovely Jeff Boone, who supports in a big league John Hollick and who else did he support in the last one? You know the typical guys that are pro-growth in Venice: Hollick, Gates, Daniels. They all love Jeff Boone, and it's not surprising. He said his influence within the city, that his hands are all over these revisions, and he has a lot of concerns. And it is obvious when you go in there to these meetings, you'll see Jeff Boone in there, and they'll be talking about doing some stuff. And this happened a couple weeks ago, and it didn't really involve Jeff, but then Jeff came up there and opined on why they need to do stuff, obviously because it's going to benefit him. But he said, oh no, I love the community, I'm all about the community, which is bull. I see Jeff in there all the time. He is not about the community. He may live here as long as he has, just like I've lived here a long time, but that guy's all about his pocket and fulfilling the needs of his clients, Neil Holmes, and many of the other developers out there. So I'm going to put the links up there so you can go to all these and read more of Dan's interesting stuff. That article, obviously, I just summarized it because I want you to go there and read it and get into the finer details of it. So look for the links above this video. This has been Frankie Abbruzzino with The Scoop News.